Welcome to the Moneyball Clinic. I took the top 30 leagues, simulated them in full detail, then smashed it all together to create an aggregated database. Across the next few episodes, I'll be using it to recommend potential signings at the beginning of the game for a variety of different budgets and levels. Left backs. The worst player on the pitch. The last name on the team sheet. The position I mostly played. Before I reveal today's 9, some housekeeping. First, yes, I'm ill. Apologies for the gravelly voice today. As mentioned in previous videos, Moneyball is a nebulous term that doesn't necessarily have a true analogue in football. For this purpose, I am looking for players that I consider to be undervalued by the market. These are players whose performance metrics put them on a par with more expensive contemporaries. We are looking at a wide variety of profiles, so there isn't a single metric we are honing in on, but I will identify where each player stands out. I would like to introduce the Moneyball group. I have taken over at the following teams, so as to verify what level each candidate would be willing to play at. Using footballalphabet.com's ranking system, I will indicate the lowest of these teams that each player is willing to join. The inference being that they should be willing to join most teams above that level. I'm also going to standardize the reports a little, going through each player in the same order. For a few that I find particularly interesting, we'll go through some match footage. We'll work from cheapest up to most expensive, and then end on the player that I think is most interesting. We start with the cheapest player on the list, Ross County's George Harmon. The 22-year-old can play anywhere down the left flank and at centre-back, although I'd be wary of the latter. His balanced personality and one-footedness might be concerns, but are easily outweighed by his $450k asking price. He is very much a specialist, in the 90th percentile for expected assists, 70th for dribbles, and with 15.3% cross accuracy, Harmon is great at providing width, getting forward, and putting the ball in the mixer. His passing metrics suggest he is not particularly useful in build-up. Defensively, he's a willing presser, in the 90th percentile for pressure attempts, and wins 82.9% of his tackles. He does not contribute in sweeping up and regaining possession. We can see this in his attributes, perhaps the most Moneyball appropriate distribution I've seen. He is good at all the things he needs to be an attacking wingback, subpar in everything else. When it comes to traits, Harmon is a blank slate. The scout report reveals no major concerns, and he is considered fairly consistent. Harmon is not a player you build around. He performs one job and one job alone. Get him high and wide in a press-heavy system, and you're golden. Ideally as a wingback in a back three. Next up, Südtirol's Simone Darby. The 23-year-old can play on either side of the defence and is available for around €800,000. Another one-footed player with a neutral personality. Fairly loyal is neither good nor bad. Darby is quite versatile. He is creative, in the 75th percentile for expected assists, and able to contribute in build-up, in the 65th percentile for progressive passes. He is also in the 75th percentile for headers won and possession won, showcasing his defensive solidity. From an attribute perspective, he is equally rounded. He does not stand out in any capacity, but there are no areas of major concern, except perhaps bravery. This would be an issue if he was a centre-back, but he's not, so it's fine. He has good consistency, but there are some adaptability concerns to be mindful of. Darby is great if you're looking for a player who can do a little bit of everything, or you need someone with flexibility. A player I would be comfortable using as a fullback or inverted wingback on support in a back four. If you're looking for a more defensive option, Theo Pellenard might be your man. The 29-year-old can play at centre-back or left-back and does both for Auxerre. Another player with a nondescript personality who is available for €1.1 million. Pellenard excels in the possession game, 95th percentile for possession won, 90th for possession lost, 80th for passes completed. He offers ball security at the cost of creativity, in only the 30th percentile for expected assists and a 10.3% cross success rate, but his 6-foot frame makes him a threat from set pieces. He's got a healthy spread of attributes, with the only discernible weakness being his poor composure. He's consistent and able to adapt to new countries with little issue. Pellinard is a good option if you're looking to form a back three in possession, ideally as an inverted fullback, but if you play with a 3 at the back system or have one as an alternative formation, he is equally capable as a wide centre-back. To Spain, Espanyol specifically, and Brian Olivan. The 29-year-old can play anywhere down the left flank, and even cover at right back in an emergency. His fairly ambitious personality is generally positive, and he can be yours for around 1.7 million euros. Olivan is more adept at scoring than creating, in the 95th percentile for goals and 65th for expected assists. Defensively, he is a pest, with significant contributions to possession 1, tackles and pressures. His 41.7% header win rate, though, is the lowest of all candidates. His attribute spread suggests a player who is more of a winger than a fullback, and his traits are congruent with someone who likes to get in the box and score. He is consistent and relishes big matches. Olivan is essentially a winger who can tackle, a strong option if you're looking for a complete wingback, and whilst he is capable defensively, I'd recommend using a back three so as to not inhibit his attacking output. Our youngest candidate is Nordsjælland's Daniel Svensson. The 21-year-old wingback can also play in midfield and is available for around 2.5 million euros. Often used as an inverted wingback, Svensson was in the 90th percentile for possession 1 and 85th for progressive passes. More intriguingly, he has the best cross success rate at 18.1%, suggesting he may have been misused. His attributes certainly suggest so. Poor balance and strength mean I'd be wary of having him in central areas, but otherwise he is more than capable at everything. He is another player with desirable consistency. Svensson is at his best in wide positions, but not necessarily as attacking as some of the previous options. Potentially a fullback or wingback on support, who will help in initial build-up and then provide crosses from the flank. We take a bit of a step up now with Claudio Bravo. The 26-year-old Portland Timbers defender is available for around 8 million euros. Bravo is a dribbly boy, one of the dribbliest in fact, who likes to get into goal-scoring positions, in both the 90th percentile for dribbles and shots. Perhaps surprisingly, he is also in the 85th percentile for progressive passes, showing his involvement in build-up. Defensively, he has the joint second best tackle success rate with George Harmon, but tends to do his defending in deeper positions. He is not involved heavily in pressing. Given his 5'7" frame, it is no surprise that his weakness is in the aerial game, but otherwise he is capable all round. His tendency to cross early is something to consider depending on your tactical setup. Bravo is consistent and likes big matches, but there are some concerns with adaptability. He's a bit of a unicorn, who you'd probably need to build around. I'd consider as either a complete wingback or inverted wingback on support in a back three. Someone who has the freedom to get forward and attack the box, but still starts deep enough to make use of his early crosses. If you're looking for an elite defensive option, Hoffenheim, Stanley and Soki might be your man. The 24-year-old is a natural centre-back, but has some positional flexibility. He has a desirable personality and is available for 9.5 million euros. And Soki's strength lies in ball security, in the 99th percentile for passes completed and 95th for possession lost, and Soki can help retain the ball in deep areas and play through the press. Unsurprisingly, he has the best header win rate of all candidates at 73.3%, and this makes him a threat from set pieces. The brings ball out of defense trait is good for those who like to play out from the back, and his elite aggression, strength and balance makes him an imposing presence on the pitch. And Soki is a big game player performing in a big time league. I'm going to take a look at a game against Bayern here, where he got a 6.3 rating. He won 80% of his tackles, including this key one around the penalty spot. He won 66% of his aerial duels, including this key one at the far post. he was dribbled past once in the whole game. His passing was safe, often playing it inside to the pivot or the nearby centre-back, but he showed the ability to break the lines through carrying. The rating seems harsh, as he performed very well against elite opposition and was at fault for neither goal. Nsoki is Pellinard, but at a higher level, or Nathan Ake at a slightly lower level. A great option as an inverted fullback with the flexibility to be a wide centre-back in a back three. Probably the most recognisable player on this list, Greg Taylor has been a solid option for a number of years now in FM. The 25-year-old Scottish wingback is available for €9.5 million and has one of my favourite personalities, resolute. In the 90th percentile for expected assists and progressive passes, Taylor helps with both build-up and creation. He can be an effective presser, yet also drops deep to help sweep up, putting him in the 90th percentile also for possession 1. He contributes in all phases, with only aerial duels being below the 40th percentile. His elite work rate is very appealing, especially for a player who's expected to get up and down the flank, and his traits definitely support that. There are some shortcomings in terms of flair and finishing, but those aren't necessarily important. Like everyone before him, he is consistent. Taylor is a great option if you're looking for a solid all-round player, a player that can help stretch the opposition without being a defensive liability. I consider him as a wing-back on support in a back four. Finally, the wild-card option, Sturm Graz's David Schnegg. The 24-year-old can play anywhere down the left flank, has a desirable personality, and is available for €3 million. In the 90th percentile for expected assists and goals, Schnegg is a dual threat. That's probably underplaying his all-round contribution. He is an elite tackler in the 95th percentile, winning 86.1% of his ground duels, and an aerial presence in the 80th percentile and winning 68.9% of his aerial duels. The only thing he doesn't really do is dribble. Why is he a wild card? That'll be sample size. Schnegg was not first choice at Sturm Graz and only reached the 900-minute threshold on 4 out of 10 simulations. We still have over 4,000 minutes of football to judge on, however. Attribute-wise, he has subpar natural fitness, and that might be a consideration in a fixture-heavy league, but otherwise a healthy spread. He's adaptable and consistent, but does not like big matches. To me, this is not much of a concern. After all, how many games are big matches? Here he is, up against RB Salzburg. Playing as a wingback in a 5, he was up against Dorgele's Nene, who completed only 1 dribble all game long. Schnegg won 6 out of 6 tackles, although he did get booked for this, which apparently wasn't a tackle attempt. The headlines, however, will be his 28.5% cross success rate. He won't be credited with an assist for Heerlander's opening goal. He will be for the one that wrapped up the win, though. Schnegg is a Swiss Army knife. Well, the Austrian Army knife. A player I would be happy to deploy as a fullback or wingback on any duty in a back 3 or 4. Whilst he can do it all, I wouldn't want him to be doing it all at the same time. He is a player that can give you flexibility throughout a match. So there we have it, 9 very different left backs. Is there anyone in particular who piques your interest? Or maybe you found someone in your saves that you'd like to recommend? Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed this, please consider subscribing for more similar content. Next episode we'll be taking a look at the pivot, destroyers, playmakers and runners. See you next time.